November 11th, 1519. Cortez conquers Mexico. You are there.
Walter Cronkite reporting, November 11, 1519. Today, the uneasy armed truce in Europe was shattered. War between Spain and France appears inevitable. We've just learned that Charles V, King of Spain, has made a secret pact with the Papal League of Italy, the object apparently the destruction of French power on the continent. Charles V's plan apparently is to wipe out the new national states and create a unified Europe under his throne. This plan depends in the main on his economic ability to support the vast military operations that he is now committed to. Proof of the imminence of war can be found in the rise in taxes and increased demands for shipments of gold and silver from the Spanish Indies. Whether this bullion, without which war cannot be waged, will arrive in time or indeed at all is one of the key questions in the minds of those who still hope and pray for peace. For a further report on the situation, we take you now to Santiago de Cuba, capital of the island of Cuba in the Spanish Indies. Bill Leonard reporting.
This is Bill Leonard in the governor's palace in Santiago de Cuba. For 10 minutes now, Governor Diego Velázquez of Cuba has been reading the charges which he'll bring against Hernan Cortes before the Royal Audiencia, the tribunal sent from Spain. As you know, Cortes left Cuba about 18 months ago in command of an expedition to Mexico. The first 11 charges of the accusation related to Cortes's refusal to ship any of the vast treasures which he's been reported to have seized from the natives. His Excellency, Don Diego de Velázquez, Governor of Cuba.
Grave crimes of treason against His Majesty Charles V of Spain. 12. My express written orders to Hernan Cortes were to barter with the natives and explore the coast. But he, defying me, has founded cities and set himself up as feudal lord of New Spain, known to the barbarians there as Mexico. 13. After I revoked his command as alcalde of Santiago and leader of the Armada, having learned on good authority of his rebellious disposition and treasonable ambitions, he did secretly set sail against my express orders and bribed my representatives and the officers of the crown. 14. He committed an act of piracy against 11 ships, 100 sailors, 553 soldiers, 32 crossbowmen, 13 arcabuceros, 200 Indian slaves, and a few menial Indian women, and also 10 heavy guns, 4 falconets, and 10 horses. All these he did appropriate to his own uses, and further, to prevent the loyal captains from returning to Cuba, he did burn the ships and destroy them utterly till they lay broken like dead whales on the beach, marooning His Majesty's ministers and soldiers. 15. The said Hernan Cortes, in direct contravention of his orders and the faith of a good Christian, has permitted the barbarians to continue with their abominable practices of human sacrifice and cannibalism, and has entered into relations with an Indian slave woman known as Donna Marina or Malinche. All this to consolidate his private claims against the rights of the King Emperor of God's Holy Roman Empire and Spain. For all these reasons and others too numerous to mention, I, Diego Velázquez, governor of Cuba, have decided to send a vast armada of 16 ships to seize Hernan Cortes and set up in New Spain a rightful representative of His Majesty in order to expedite the shipments of bullion which have been requested for the holy wars against France. If Hernan Cortes resists, my orders are that he be killed. If he returns in chains, he will be tried for treason and heathenish practices and other abominations too vile to be mentioned.
These formalities of charges and countercharges will continue for some time as the friends of the accused man take up his defense. Meanwhile, we take you to the capital of the Aztec Empire in Mexico, headquarters of Captain Cortez, where we'll get a report on the situation there and the attitude of the commander from Harry Marble.
This is Harry Marble in the palace of Axiacatl, headquarters assigned to the expeditionary force of Captain General Cortez by the Aztec Emperor Montezuma II. While relations between the Spaniards and Aztecs have remained friendly on the surface, tensions continue to build. And for the past 6 days, all military personnel have been under a continuous alert. A small force of 400 Spaniards and their 200 Indian allies from Tlaxcala are surrounded by 300,000 Aztec inhabitants of this great city and the garrison of 50,000 crack palace troops of Montezuma. You're looking directly into the council chamber and at the leading Spanish captains. This is an emergency meeting called to decide on the next move to be made in this great adventure, which has opened a new world of matchless wealth and civilization to Spanish ambitions. Here comes Captain General Cortez now on his way to the conference. Captain Cortez, are you familiar with the charges placed against you by the governor of Cuba?
I am familiar with these false charges. They began before I left Cuba, and they will continue until this great country is added to the Spanish Empire.
How do you expect to meet these charges?
By actions. From now on, I shall ignore the governor of Cuba and communicate directly with the King of Spain.
There were certain specific charges against you with relation to Donna Marina.
She is a slave, given to me by my Indian allies, and has been of great value as an interpreter. The Indians call her the tongue of Cortez.
I believe there were other charges of a religious nature raised by Governor Velázquez.
My mission is to take this land for Charles V, my emperor, and to convert these barbarians to our holy faith. The mission is not yet accomplished. Nevertheless, as a symbol of my intentions, I have ordered a troop of soldiers under Captain Pedro de Alvarado to raise the cross right in the main temple of the Aztecs. and to cast down their murderous idols. This is now being done.
Do you think it's wise at this moment to antagonize the Emperor Montezuma and the entire priesthood and people of the Aztecs?
It is unwise. But I can no longer bear the sight of the victims sacrificed daily outside the very doors of this palace. I did what I had to do, and will bear what has to come. It is a philosophy I recommend to all men.
That was Captain General Hernan Cortes, commander of the Spanish expedition into the interior of Yucatan and Mexico. This direct attack by the Spaniards on the religious superstitions of the Aztecs may lead to serious repercussions. We now take you to the main temple of the Aztecs directly outside here. Come in, Mike Wallace.
Mike Wallace reporting. We're in the central market square on top of the main Aztec temple. The Spanish soldier you see there is Captain Pedro de Alvarado, second in command to Hernan Cortes. The idol you see is the Aztec god of war. The Spanish soldiers call him Old Witchy Wolves, but this affectionate description hardly suggests what goes on here. Each day, a few human beings, and on grand holidays, as many as 12,000 men, women, and children are sacrificed here. Within the temple is the great drum made of serpent skins, which can be heard all over the city when it is struck to summon the people. The walls of this temple are stained with human blood. That is Father Olmeda. Today, by command of Hernan Cortes, the idol is cast down, and in its place, a cross erected and consecrated. The raising of this cross right here in the heart of Mexico City, in the very temple of the chief Aztec god, is an act of unparalleled daring, of religious faith, but of folly too. For we are here in the heart of this dark and golden continent, surrounded by unimaginable dangers, strange men, stranger customs, and even stranger beasts. Below us, on one side of the temple, is the palace of Montezuma, on the other side, the headquarters of Cortez. We take you now back to the headquarters of the Spanish Expeditionary Force and to Harry Marble.
This is Harry Marble in the council room of the Spanish Expeditionary Forces. No agreement has been reached on what the next step should be in the present campaign. Cortez has met strong disapproval on his orders to violate the Aztec gods. The feeling of most of the leaders is that the Spaniards should take what treasure they have and escape back to the coast. Cortez is opposed to this. At the moment, he's preparing to dictate a dispatch to the King of Spain.
Right as I speak. To his most high, mighty, and Catholic priest. Invincible Emperor, and our sovereign liege. I am desirous that your majesty should know of certain matters concerning this land, which is so great and marvelous. That as I wrote in my former letter in dispatch,
Captain Cristobal de Olive.
with no less reason and title than he does now of Germany, which by the grace of God your majesty now possesses.
He may call himself Emperor of the world also, which he holds as lightly as we hold Mexico.
Well, Captain, having discovered Mexico, we must conquer it before it conquers us. In my former letter, most excellent prince, I informed your majesty of all the towns and villages which up to that time I held as subject and conquered. And I also mentioned news of a great ruler named Montezuma, and that I intended to advance and see him wherever he might be
Captain
found.
Juan Velasquez de Leon, nephew of the governor of Cuba, who is seeking to replace Cortez.
High above the mountains, and the snows, and the floods. And we have found him out.
Oh, he has enticed us like a spider in his web.
How do you find the spider if not in his web? The great city of Tenochtitlan stands in the midst of a salt lake, and is 2 leagues from the heart of the city to any point on the mainland. 4 causeways lead to it, all made by
Captain
hand.
Gonzalo de Sandoval, personal friend and townsman of Cortez.
The awkwardness of our position. The city itself is as large as Sevilla or Cordoba.
But more beautiful by far. Tell them how it is, Hernan, and how we thought we were enchanted when first we saw it from the mountains. The snow up there and the sun below.
I will. Tenochtitlan stands in the waters, and many other towns and cities stand around the lakes, one of which is sweet and the other is salt.
Donna Marina, slave, interpreted to Cortez for the last 14 months.
So you can smell the dried blood of the men and women they sacrifice there. And all around are the floating gardens and the red and white flowers. White walls and walls that are pale and pink. A great aqueduct brings fresh water from Chapultepec. And on the lakes, a multitude of canoes. And in the cities, temples and orifices, like towers and fortresses. And all are gleaming white. And it is a wondrous sight to see. 300,000 barbarians, and we are but 400 men.
If we die like rats in the trap of Montezuma, our souls will go, and the treasure will still be here in the oratories and temples.
Rejoice! The war god is down, and the cross of the Prince of Peace is risen.
Pedro, was there trouble?
Nothing. The smell of blood in the temple was like a place where they slaughter animals.
Most Catholic Majesty, I forbade these Indians to make human sacrifice to their idols as was their wont, because besides being an abomination in the sight of God, it is prohibited by your Majesty's laws, which declare that he who kills shall be killed.
So we will all die. God knows we have killed.
The question is, what do we do now? Not in heaven, but here.
We have the gold, at least enough for each man. Let's go back to Spain and enjoy it.
As the Indians race the drawbridges,
We will lower.
I think, Hernan, we'd best depart with our men to the coast. But here we're too few.
And what are we there if the governor of Cuba should send an armada to pick up the prizes of all the work that we've done, and the death that we've died, and hang us beside? Captain! What do we do? I must have your advice on this matter.
We are like visitors in a world of dreams. We see everything, but nothing can we touch or bring back.
For my part, I say let us do something, no matter how dangerous. So long as it is, we can either win or lose.
Let us escape if we can. And if we have to abandon the treasure, what good is the treasure if we're dead?
then we make a treaty with Montezuma.
We can make it, but since he is stronger, he can break it.
We have gone too far.
It is the temple drum, my lords. The priests of Montezuma are calling the people and the soldiers.
Couldn't the cross wait another day?
The cross is our strength. And if a devil beats a drum, do we fly? Go to your post. I shall decide. And when I decide, we shall do it. And no matter what happens, in God's name it will be done. Marina.
My lord,
What will happen to us here?
we will all die. Some in battle and some on the altar.
The altar is torn down.
What is torn down can be raised. I am the tongue of Cortez, and I speak for him and to him. The Indians call me Malinche, and now they call you Malinche, for we are as one in their minds. I am as powerful in this whole realm as you are. And now, when you are cast down, I will fall. And when you die, I will die.
If I only knew which danger was the most practical, I would practice it.
Oh, Hernan Cortes, the Indians are men as I am a woman, and they live as you do by what they believe. You will die here in Tenochtitlan unless you listen to their thoughts.
I do. And I say the trouble is, they no longer think we are gods. Our magic is gone.
I knew that secret long ago. But Montezuma is their king and their god. His flesh is sacred, and his feet must not touch the ground. Kings from the north and the south have died on his altar because he is the King of Kings. Even the people do not dare raise their eyes to look at him. He is so high.
But you do?
I was a slave sold by his kind, but my eyes are free. I can see what Montezuma cannot see, and you cannot see. If you kill Montezuma, another will become king. If you bewitched him and spoke through his mouth, this empire would be yours, and the land and the people, and you would be safe.
But I cannot bewitch anyone.
You can take him hostage if you dare. If you dare, you can hold him, and the lands will listen to you. If he proclaims that you are an emissary of the gods.
And if he will not,
then you will die. Perhaps on that altar. But if you do not dare, we will all die anyway. That is my advice, my lord. You cannot defeat the 100,000 soldiers of Montezuma, but you can defeat him, and through him, the empire.
then we will take him. We will try. And if he falls, then a slave they gave me will have struck him down, and with it the great empire. Oh, Marina, I give you your freedom, as you have given me mine back again.
What freedom, my lord?
To go as you will, as I go, to be free. What can I give you?
Have I been a good servant?
Yes.
And your faithful tongue to the Indians?
Yes.
And a friend?
Yes.
And a wife?
I have a wife across the seas.
What soldier does not have some wife across some sea?
Alvarado!
We will now take you back to the temple in Mike Wallace, where we hear troops from the Aztec garrison have surrounded the grounds and the cross is being destroyed. The city is stirring with excitement over what they regard as sacrilege, and on the causeway, a gang of Aztec youths attack 2 Spanish soldiers. Come in, Mike Wallace.
They are pulling down the cross. Below, the square is filled with Aztec soldiers. The people are coming into the side streets. The lagoons are filling with canoes. The men are all armed. The cross is down, and here is the war god himself being carried in to be set up. Below, the Spaniards are bringing their heavy field guns out, covering the square, the side streets with them. There goes a patrol of about 50 men, the musketeers in front. And here come the horses. As usual, the Indians fall back from the horses. The Spaniards are clearing the road between their palace and the palace of Montezuma. Come in now, Winston Burdett.
Winston Burdett here. We are in the anterooms of Montezuma's palace, and for the last few minutes, groups of Spanish soldiers have been infiltrating and taking strategic positions covering all entrances and exits. The Tlaxcalan allies of the Spaniards have been disposed, almost 2,000 strong, down the back lane that leads from behind the patio of Montezuma's palace to the palace where Cortez has his headquarters. Here is Captain General Cortez now. The Aztec you see there is Chamberlain to Montezuma. The Spaniards have requested an audience with Montezuma, but the Chamberlain is insisting that the Spaniards disarm before they enter the presence of the Emperor.
Your Majesty. Sir, I have certain complaints, which I wish to present to you for your consideration.
Malinche, I sent my Chamberlain to tell you that soldiers do not wear arms in the presence of this person.
We carry our arms, the better to defend your Majesty, against whatever dangers may be abroad.
I know of no dangers, except from abroad.
Your Majesty is ill-informed. However, there is, sir, a matter of great import to speak of. I cannot understand how so great a lord, and as wise a man as you are, had not yet thought it out, that the idols you keep in the temples are not gods, but very bad things known as devils. I raised the true cross in their place, and now I learned that your priests have torn down the cross, and put in its stead the Satan that eats human hearts and flesh. Was this on your command?
My priests placed their gods in the temple that was built and raised for their gods. If you wish to raise a cross, raise it in your own temple, which is in your own land.
It seems to me, sir, that it would be wise for us to speak further of these grave matters and at our leisure. It would be well for you to come with us to our palace and rest a while with us there, surrounded and protected by my soldiers who love and respect your Majesty, and will do all his commands.
My person is not such as to be in prison. And even if I were willing, my people would not tolerate it.
You would not be my prisoner, but my guest, as I am a guest in your land and not your prisoner. You may be sure that I and my soldiers will serve you faithfully.
I am served faithfully by my own.
I beseech you, sir, follow me freely. No harm will come to you.
I will not come.
Give it your true consideration, sir. I would speak to you of the safety of your own soul, and of the matters of this land and its people, and of your allegiance to the great king across the seas, whose vassal I am and whose vassal you must be. Since he is of the east, and you did tell me of yourself, of Quetzalcoatl, who would come one day, or send emissaries to lead the Aztec peoples.
If you had come to save our souls, and our souls alone, I could have understood it. For men preach what gods they believe in. If you had come only to steal our treasures and our lands, I could have understood it. For men steal what they can take. But you come to steal both our souls and our lands and treasures. What does that leave us? It leaves us slaves. Without our gods. Without our fortunes. Malinche, if you attempt to do this, you will all die. They will tear out your hearts on the altars, and they will eat your flesh at the temple steps.
His words, let him come, or we shall run a sword through his body.
I advise you to move without noise, for then they will honor you. I know they're cowards, for you gave me to them in slavery, and I have been with them since the day they landed on our shores. Their boats came across the wide seas, and they have powers you have not seen yet. Truly they are what you thought they were, emissaries from that other kingdom to which someday we will all go, and behind are others, numberless. You are the king, and you must save this city and all cities from their wraths, for they kill like giants.
Speak to your people, Master, and call them. Say that you are coming with us freely, as you are. For you will come and you must come.
This is the moment of your destiny that was predicted and said in our history. If you do not listen, the people and the city will die.
Speak to your people, and say that we are from the east, and the prophecy has come to life. Go to that balcony and speak! Speak! Or you will see such blood in your streets that even you, who have slaughtered in your temples by the thousands, will hang back in horror and amazement. And you will not die until all is done and all are dead but you. You will be the last. I will put fire and sword to this city, so that no one will walk or move or breathe until eternity. I speak for a greater God and King than any you have ever known. Tell them. Tell them. And we will be brothers, and we will love and respect each other always. Tell them, or else you and all of them will die. Now speak!
All of our old gods are dead.
Brothers and friends, you all know that for a long time, you and your forefathers have been subjects and vassals to my ancestors and mine, and that you have always been treated well by them and by me. You must know from your ancestors that we and ours are not native to this land, but came from a far-off country under a lord whom we know as Quetzalcoatl, who left us, but said that one day he would return or send someone with power and force to attract us to his sway again. You know that we have always expected him, and that his emissary is here in the person of the great captain who has told us of his emperor, who commands that we return to his service across the seas. We have waited for him a long time, and now he is here. I beg of you to obey him as you would me, and render unto him what he wishes as your Lord. And in this way, you will do me great pleasure. I said I would go with you.
Then come! I bear you great love, my king. And we are at your services forever.
And the cross was raised again. In his dispatches to Charles V of Spain, Cortez finished his report.
Your Majesty, having passed 6 days there in the great city of Tenochtitlan, and having seen something of its marvels, though little in comparison with what is to be seen and examined, I considered it essential both for my observation of the city and the rest of the land that its rulers should be in my power and no longer entirely free. And this is now done. From your sacred Majesty's very humble slave and vassal, who kisses the royal hands and feet of your Highness, Hernan Cortes, Captain General, and Lord Justiciar of Yucatan.
So the great Indian civilization in Mexico fell, and the strange golden land fell into slavery. There were revolts, massacres, wars. Montezuma was stoned to death by his own people, but Cortez survived all the hardships, dangers, and plots, and ruled in the king's name. Dust covered the great temple walls. The Spanish covered the language of Aztec and Mayan. Only in our time did an independent nation rise again in the land of the plumed serpent. But strangely enough, despite all of the glory and magnificence of the conquest, in all of Mexico today, there is not a statue to the conquistador. And the Indian word for traitor still is the name of the slave who was the tongue of Cortez. What sort of a day was it? A day like all days, filled with those events which alter and illuminate our times. And you were there.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to help us produce more compelling historical content like this, please like, comment below, and share this video with fellow history buffs. And of course, be sure to subscribe to help keep history happening.